starting it. Oh no. I want it to automatically record. So we're gonna.
Wonderful. So let's take a look at the early learning program standards. We have this chart on this next slide that talks about or shows what the standards are today in the current position statement and what they will be in the new position statement that we want your feedback on. And Troy, could we go to the next slide? Great. So currently there's 10 early childhood program standards. You'll see those on the left side of your screen. Those are probably pretty familiar to you. Many of state systems and other accreditation systems are built around those 10 standards. What we're moving to in the new update is really going deep into developmentally appropriate practices and thinking about these program standards as a way for programs to demonstrate how they are providing developmentally appropriate practices in their programs, whether that's a school-based setting, a center-based setting, a family child care setting, a Head Start setting. We really want to make sure that these standards feel relevant across all of those settings, which is why we need that feedback. But we're moving to a better alignment with developmentally appropriate practices so that it feels like this is a really useful way for all programs to be able to just share the beautiful practices that they're doing, continue to stretch and grow as they are understanding developmentally appropriate practices and operationalizing developmentally appropriate practices, and something that they can continue to leverage, whether that is communicating to families about the high quality work that happens with young children in their program, or educating their staff members as they come in new to the field. We know that the educator workforce is challenged right now, and there are always opportunities for us to bring in new, fresh voices to the early childhood field, folks who maybe haven't worked in this profession before but have a real calling to support young children. We want to make sure that these program standards are a way that we can help them to understand what is most effective for young children in the classroom and how they can continue to grow as a professional. So we're really excited to be able to continue to support the conversations around high quality at NAEYC. We want to continue to be in communication and conversation with everyone who's doing the work and supporting the work out in the world. So we hope that we have a lot of representation from Ohio giving us feedback on these standards so that you can use them and that they will feel aligned to step up to quality and the other systems that you're engaged in your state.
Thank you, Alissa. I am going to ask a question from the chat before we move on to our next speaker. And if you can answer that, and then we'll move on to Francia. So Vicky in the chat asks, obviously high quality programs require investing in your program. How can NAEYC or other programs help private centers get paid based on enrollment instead of attendance, the way that public pre-K programs get paid?
Yeah, we know that the cost of care almost never actually matches the reimbursement amounts that programs are being offered. I know when I was a program director, I was worked directly in centers for around 15 years of my career. We had to do a lot of advocating on behalf of our program, knowing that what we needed to be able to do high quality work in the classroom every day was often not a match for what we were reimbursed for that quality. So I would just always lift up. NAEYC is a place where advocacy happens. If you're not connected to the advocacy efforts that NAEYC is leading, you should be. We really take the information that we receive from the field to be able to push for policies that help to elevate the things that are the most important. And I do think that the funding piece is huge. So I would plug into the work that we're already doing in the advocacy space. You can find more information at www.naeyc.org. If you take a look at our website, you're going to see a whole page that's devoted to advocacy. Make sure you get signed up for the newsletters. Make sure you're paying attention to the opportunities where you can show your voice. We do a lot of surveying of the field to be able to share with policymakers, both at the federal level and the state level. And I also know that the work that Troy and team are doing is also elevating the needs for you, particularly in Ohio. So I think my best answer to that is get engaged, be an advocate, share your story, because I think that's the thing that will make the most difference when we're thinking about policy change.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alissa. That was very helpful and wonderful, and we're excited to engage with you a little bit more in the Q&A at the end. Next, we're going to move on with Francia Wisniewski, who is the Director of Membership and Community Engagement at the National Association for Family Child Care.
Thank you so much, Groundwork Ohio, for having us here today, to my co-presenters and all of you, the community attending this webinar. And kudos to you, Groundwork, on your briefing that you released this week on family child care and early care and education systems. I'm delighted to share a little bit of our work on creating high-quality early learning environments in family child care systems, and especially through the accreditation process. I'm proud to be part of an organization whose mission is to bring the voices of family child care to the front and to raise the priorities in the halls of power in the decision-making, as many of you are doing right now. As the Director of Membership and Community Engagement with over 20 years of experience on these fields as an educator myself, I'm here today representing our accreditation team, which is currently providing a training for accreditation in the Texas military family child care system. We have been in existence for over 40 years in the US, the National Association for Family Child Care, and we connect with family child care educators and partners across the country to highlight the incredible impact of home-based family child care. And we do this by expanding and promoting the power of family child care, and by connecting practice, policy, and policy making and research to strengthen and champion the field and to create tangible and meaningful change. Next slide, please. Are you able to check? I see the same slide, Troy. Great, thank you. We are proud to represent the largest network of family child care of educators in the country. We are the only organization who is offering the national accreditation specifically for family child care programs, and we're committed in helping family child care in excelling in their business and practice of educations. And our core work is really focused on, number one, our accreditation program is like a quality seal for family child care, professional development that many of you have attended and participated in, also joined in conference and this coming year in Dallas, Texas, policy and advocacy and membership and partnership. Next slide. So home-based family child care is a lifeline of families across our nation, especially providing opportunities to many families, and particularly including those in the lower income bracket communities, and as well as families from diverse and cultural backgrounds. One of the key things is the flexible hours, they offer for families and non-traditional schedules, and providing care in all kinds of neighborhood settings, and with an effort to preserve home language and cultural practices. Next slide. So for many families, so these are some numbers, how especially the cultural representation, and especially again in rural and urban areas, family child care educators are trusted members of the community who understand their values, traditions, and unique needs, and they offer affordable rates while providing an intimate home-like environments that many families prefer for the young children. Next slide. So nothing, not losing here, right? We all know that for family childcare, the trends are looking down, but we remain hopeful that we are working together to change this trend. Next slide, please. So when talking about high quality in family childcare, we're talking about supporting educators who are doing all this vital work. And I want to just highlight that quality is not the edge treatment lingo, but a proper, intentional, supportive way in which quality truly shapes children's, futures. And because we're raising the professional standards and we're providing meaningful supports that are aligned, that is that intentional and not asking our family childcare educators just to keep climbing mountains without the proper gear, to make an analogy. But educators deserve to continue their professional pathway of growth with fair compensation that matches their expertise and experiences, and the systems that lift them up, rather than the opposite. So a true genuine quality isn't just checking in the boxes, but building sustainable careers for dedicated professionals who are nurturing the next generation. Next slide. I think we all know where some of these challenges are already, and especially through these past years, we know the lack of professional recognition, adequate compensation for this work, despite high level skills and dedication, has discouraged, especially those who are coming new into the field. So this decline is impacting the quality, is impacting the opportunities for flexibility, and is impacting the cultural responsive care that the home care, family childcare are providing. Next slide. Just one more time, I don't know how many times we've seen this graphic, but my focus on this is, although some people are closing the doors permanently, this past year they have been, and right now we're working with tangible improvements, like in great silver lining, including the federal relief fund through the ARPA. And some states like Ohio and throughout the nation are prioritizing home-based family childcare in the redistribution of funding. Your legislature, your governors are really aligned with the system. You're offering direct financial supports of operation supplies, a better increase in technology that, our field that, average family childcare educators, 30, 40, 50 plus, are right now accessing support for business operations, health and safety supplies, and all of this. So, as we're creating new networks, this is also giving us an opportunity to modernize our system, to have a better payment system, to have a better technology for reimbursements, to pay family childcare educators timely, and actually to bring them up to be part of those conversations and policymaking. Next slide. So, every system, like all of you are looking right now, have the potential to establish a fully integrated and adequate funding systems that begin at birth, and building a system that recognizes, supports excellence is, it starts with various, we're trying to just align all those systems, right? We all have different needs, and how we do that intentionally to eliminate the redundancy and the burden of duplicate standards and paperwork, right? Right now, our family childcare educators, they are part of many systems like the QRIS, the subsidy system, the food system, the environmental protection. So really being intentional about having one streamlined system that really is going to respond to all of this alignment together, so we make it in a more supportive environment. Next slide. I just, for us here at the National Association for Family Childcare, we're responding to these challenges with our accreditation system. And also we have learned, in transparency, we also came from a constrained system that help us look at things in new ways to ensure that we have more educators that are bringing this quality to the top. Next slide. You can go, you can go over. So our accreditation is recognized across the 50 states and represents the gold standard. And, you know, everybody who gets accredited really demonstrate a commitment to excellence, and they demonstrate really what high quality standards mean in our field. Next slide. So the accreditation benchmark, so this is the important part also, is a way to align, and this is aligned with all the licensing requirements at all levels and the QRIS systems as well. One of the critical pieces, this process has been highly focused on the unique strength of family childcare educators, and have been meant to be building strong relationships and meaningful interactions in spaces of quality. And these also have been made by family childcare educators for family childcare educators through this process. So this is just a little bit of the history. Next slide. So it's a comprehensive journey that just brings the heart and soul of quality, and it is really a robust process that includes all the benchmarks and standards of health and safety practices in place and essential business skills. Next slide. So along with this skills, we also have in place communities of practices for mentors and coaches. So we train them, and we also have these communities of practices. We have a plethora of webinars to help people navigate the systems that we have put in place. We currently have an accreditation portal that has facilitated people to start their journey and to know where they are at, and just making sure we have an easy, accessible place for the accreditation process. Next slide. So how does this help family childcare educators? So ensures the quality that they are using these standards, starting with the self-study. They really go through a 6 month of knowing what does this mean for them, what are the extra training they need to do. They are a system for public trust and accountability, and in many cases, when they become accredited, of course, the subsidies and their reimbursements go up to 20% per child. And I want to mention also some states have started also working in collaboration with the systems to bring the apprenticeship programs through the Department of Labor, so recognizing quality and also working with additional stipends for the workforce. Next slide. And this is just a simple visual of our accreditation journey from the application, when people get observations, when they come into the field for, annual updates, but this is a constant grow and, the life cycle of an accreditation. So make sure it's sustained, and make sure it's improved as they go through each cycle. You can go to next slide. I know you can go to the following slide, please. I know we have two more presenters here. So just some key points here. So the standards of this accreditation, again, focus on nurturing positive relations with families. So this is how we bring culture and learning environments, specifically like diversity, equity, and support dual language learners. And the other pieces, the family and community engagement is high. I know you talk about the QRIS, and this is also part of your rating that is meaningful for families. So this is the 3 key points of this. So ensuring cultural practices through this process of accreditation is a key, and elevate the functions of the role of family childcare educators in the community. And, for the accreditation focus, again, overall, we talk about cultural competences, inclusive learning environment, and equity, accessibility, and sustaining. So the same things I say. So, without all of this is really a big effort, support, and we're talking with the states in how we can better the system. It's not perfect, but we try to improve. It's different in every state, and we hope this is useful information for you. Next slide is the information for any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Francia. Now we're going to move on we do have one chat question we're good. That's just Alissa sharing the resources, so we're good there. So we're going to move on to Dr. Deborah Bergeron, who is the Deputy Director of Community Engagement and Innovation at the National Head Start Association. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Bergeron.
Thank you, Troy. I appreciate it. This is a great conversation. And it was a little bit challenging to put together a short presentation on quality when it comes to Head Start. For those of you, I mean, I would imagine everyone on this call understands what Head Start is, but just a quick background. You can go to the next slide. Of NHSA, I'm here representing the association, and what we really work to do is to coalesce, inspire, and support Head Start field as a leader in early childhood development and education, and to really be that one voice, not just for Head Start programs, but for the Head Start quality and the programming that exists in Head Start classrooms for all children. So that's a really important thing to NHSA. And I'll kind of talk about this from that standpoint. You can go to the next slide. And I think that, you know, just reminding everybody that Head Start is going to turn 60 next year. So in 1965, some folks had this idea that if we worked with young children before they went to kindergarten during the summer, it might help them get a head start before they started school, for those children living in poverty. And since then, Head Start has really been the foundation on which all of our childcare has been built throughout the years. It has changed and grown over the time, over time with need, and with a change in culture and society. But there is a through line that exists in all high quality childcare today, including Head Start systems, that can be traced back to 1965. So I think it's a really important point to make as we talk about quality, that we have this federal program that within it has standards that have been used by all of the states to sort of establish what that state was going to prioritize in their own systems. And so the materials I'm going to share with you today are out there. They're public source, they're federally funded, so they're available to everybody. And I encourage you to check them out if you haven't before. We can go to the next slide. I think that one of the things that would have been really easy for me to do is to focus on the Head Start program performance standards, which are the standards that support all of our programs and create that high standard of quality. We know that most states, QRIS, align really well with the Head Start program performance standards. In fact, in many states, being a Head Start program really puts you at the highest rating for in terms if they do stars or something like that. We see so much good alignment. I didn't think that would have been the best use of my time. So I'm going to pull out two things. You can go back. Two things that I want to focus on that come out of Head Start that I think are really valuable. The first is the Early Learning Outcomes Framework, which, as you'll see, has these central domains from approaches to learning to social emotional development, to language and literacy, cognition, and motor and physical. None of this is going to shock you. I'm sure that in the frameworks that you're using, whether it's, well, if it's this one, it would be exactly like this, but the frameworks that come out to support early childhood programs are generally using these similar domains. And they come from the research that OHS did before developing these kinds of things. And I think, you know, what ends up happening is Head Start gets to the honor really of being that foundation upon which all of the other standards emit, which is really exciting. And for those of you, for example, those family childcare homes that, you know, the resources they have are limited, as we just heard. These are resources that those folks can pull right offline for free. And we encourage you to do that and to really dig into some quality support that is there for the taking for all of those providers to make sure that all of our children are receiving high quality. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This to me is where the real pinnacle of Head Start stands out. This mantra that parents are a child's first and most important teacher is a very big piece of what Head Start does. Head Start is certainly an early childhood program, and most folks will call it a preschool program. And certainly we enroll children birth to 5 and provide that service. But at the end of the day, Head Start's real history is about lifting families out of poverty. We take care of children by supporting their families, really is the secret sauce. Next slide. And so what I want to really share with you today is the Parent Family Community Engagement Framework, because I think it is through this approach, all of the academic standards, the standards behind health and wellness, the standards that are related to social emotional development, all of those are very important. But what really moves the needle for our children is how we treat parents and families, because those kids are going to be with those families well beyond their time at Head Start. So by building a strong foundation of families with trust relationships with the program, families who are empowered to see themselves as something that they might not have been able to even visualize before they came into the program, is really where we lay a foundation for that child to make huge gains, not just when they're in Head Start, but well beyond. And so the framework starts with program foundations and looking at how the program is developed. That's leadership, it's professional development, it's the entire piece that's going to support the family. And then you've got program impact areas. So how is the program impacting the environment, the family partnerships, teaching and learning, community partnerships, those kinds of things. I'm going to skip the blue line and go right to child outcomes, because we know that at the end of the day, we are here to see what are the child outcomes that are linked to these relationships that we build, things like health and wellness and safety, having a safe home, having a medical home, learning and developing, making sure parents understand those developmental milestones so they can be part of it, positive relationships with families so that they're supporting the work that we're doing in the classroom when children are at home, and that they're ready for school and that they're ready to be successful in life. Next slide. The piece of this, though, that I think matters the most is this blue column. Head Start's family community engagement framework hinges on family outcomes, which is unique. A lot of family engagement programs, especially in K-12, are focusing on the child in sort of a silo. What I encourage everyone to do who is working with young children is to really think of family outcomes as part of a child outcome. When a family is healthier, when a family's foundation is stronger, that child is going to be stronger and healthier and have far greater ability to navigate the challenges that lie ahead of them through their K-12 experience. Things like family well-being, positive parent-child relationships, understanding communication. The family as a lifelong learner, looking at where a parent is today and where they could be tomorrow, is a big part of what Head Start does, to not just take care of that family, but to show the child what are your opportunities. And when they see their parents learning and growing, it influences how they see their own ability. Family transitions into school certainly is a big part of it, connections to the community, and families as advocates for their children, which is a really big piece of what Head Start does, because those parents, as they go into the K-12 system, still need to be able to advocate for their children. So I'm sharing this framework with you as really, to me, the centerpiece of the quality that exists in Head Start programs. Yes, the performance standards, which are hundreds of pages long, you could dig into them and see all of the different standards that the Office of Head Start has set for programs. They are lofty, they are heavy, and they are very high. But I think this piece is so important. And again, available to you, all of you, on OHS's website to use and to maybe use as a springboard for your own relationships with families. I will say that this framework has been picked up by, I think, 17 states to develop their own family engagement frameworks for school systems. So we know it's had an impact on quality of family engagement in the whole system. Next slide. The last thing I just thought I would share with you, just to give you a taste of the impact that Head Start has on the early childhood system. These are all of our classrooms. And, I think this is where we have the opportunity as a national program to influence quality and other aspects of how we treat our early childhood system. Most recently, the Office of Head Start published a new rule that has a whole host of new standards in it Probably the most important is a requirement for pay parity. The future will hold how that plays out, but what I know is if Head Start can figure out pay parity, that will influence all of you out there providing childcare outside of Head Start systems and looking for that same support for your staff. I think Head Start has the ability to be a bellwether and to set high standards, and then to watch the field, the early childhood education follow suit as those standards are set. And again, the last slide is just my information. I'm perfectly available to anybody if you ever want to dig into any of these pieces, or if you're interested in resources. I think the important thing is that all children receive the kind of quality that we expect from our highest quality classroom, regardless of their zip code or their backgrounds. And I appreciate the time to talk today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bergeron. So we talked a lot about different approaches to quality, from accreditation to program standards to context, where are kids being served, differences between family childcare, cultural competency, supporting programs. So there's a lot of information, but just laying the foundation of why this matters, why quality matters, why we talk about it, why it's important. And now we're going to step into talking about Ohio's journey to early learning, and how, what is the journey that we went on, where are we at now, and how is Ohio prioritizing high quality early learning in the state. So next we're going to transition to Alissa Leatherman, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at the Ohio Department of Children and Youth. Alissa, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Troy. And I just can't help myself. So just want to respond real quickly from an Ohio perspective to Vicki's question around enrollment. Paying on enrollment, that is something that the state is looking at. There are federal rules that have been published, and over the next 2 years, we need to be working towards that. So we look forward to partnering with providers to figure out how to do that. And to Francia's message around the declining family childcare population, we were really excited the other day to realize that we have a net of 106 family childcare providers during the last 9 months here in Ohio. So we feel that trend that you mentioned in terms of thinking about the need and the importance of family childcare. So I just want to mention as I get started that when Ohio looks at the importance of quality early care and education, we are really focused on 2 beneficiaries. And I'll talk to those today. The first is children who are benefiting from those high quality services. And the second is really the providers, the community that we know as the early care and education system. In Ohio, you can go to the next slide, Troy. So we believe that access to and enrolling in high quality leads to the development of the strongest foundation for children in our state. In Ohio, our kindergarten readiness assessment is our measure to gauge that readiness. As you can see on this slide, the kindergarten readiness is a critical milestone that we and our colleagues at the Department of Education and Workforce pay attention to, because we know how well a child starts off on this journey is really important to their future success. The next slide. Changes in our focus on quality and our definition of quality has been directly informed by what you're seeing on this slide, and that's our current level of readiness, children demonstrating readiness in our state, which is at 36.6%. You'll also note that there are gaps for groups of children that we care so deeply about, and these changes and the need for us to improve as a system on behalf of these children is what really has motivated our changes to the quality rating and improvement system that I'll touch on. As you can see here, we know again, when children are ready, they're 7 times more likely to be proficient in reading. They're 9 times more likely to be proficient in mathematics. So we really know the more we wrap our arms around those children in their earliest years, it has the potential to have great success. As a department, we have established 3 big goals. While early care and education sits squarely in that middle one on improving kindergarten readiness, based on what you just heard about, especially around the foundation that Head Start and performance standards have laid, we know that it also has the opportunity to influence these other items because early care and education providers are working with families so directly. Things like safe sleep education, that is an important driver of our infant mortality rate, are discussed and can be talked about and can be modeled in early care and education settings. We also know that supporting families in early care and education settings prepares them, builds confidence to be parents, and hopefully reduces that rate of children entering the foster care system because they are able to ask questions of a person that they trust. They do have a relationship, and a lot of times programs may actually be going into the home and supporting the family in that environment as well. So that kindergarten readiness measure that I mentioned, our goal is to move from that 36.6% to 60% over the next 2.5 years. So it is aggressive, and it is really hopefully driving us to be very focused on achieving that goal. I did just want to mention that on this journey, which we'll walk through a little bit, we have had validation studies that have followed along with this journey, and we'll be sure as we've made changes from the 5-star to the 3-tier system that we will also have a validation study to look at how well we're performing. But we do know over time that programs that are participating and that achieve quality ratings in our state, the children who participate in those programs have demonstrated a higher level of readiness. So that's why we believe that it's really important for us to focus there. This is just a history of where we've been around the quality rating and improvement and really our way of defining quality. We've modified it over time. It includes influences that are outside of our control, but embraced legislative exemptions, as was mentioned earlier, around who has to and who can participate. We also have requirements that have been modified around how we look at qualifications of individuals in our quality rating system. So we've tried to stay steady in terms of having this a common definition, but it also has been modified over time. And as you'll note, as Troy mentioned in July, we implemented the revised 3-level system. For us in our state, one of the most important things to the field, I've mentioned the benefits to children participating, is that quality is a unifier for our field. We have lots of ways of defining ourselves. We were on a call earlier this week with a group of stakeholders. Is it childcare? Is it daycare? Is it preschool? Is it faith-based? Is it community-based? How do we name ourselves? How do we call ourselves? And there's lots of confusion about how people identify themselves. What this quality infrastructure has developed for us in our state over time is a common way for people to define quality. And there's not a lot of debate in terms of once you receive that rating is applicable across all setting types. So we've really loved and appreciated the commonality, what it has brought to our field. It also has allowed us to have this framework that aligns to, Troy shared these earlier in his slides as well. And we've just listed a little bit of information on what we think that means for here in Ohio. But just want to say it's allowed us to create a framework so that when we think about professional development and resources going out to the field, it's under this umbrella of quality. We can connect it to quality. We can show that there's a direct connection to the investments that we're making in improving quality. So we've benefited from having this system and this common approach that, again, we hope has really unified our field. These are our revised program standards. So one important thing to note is that the domains that you see, learning and development, administration and leadership practices, staff qualifications, family and community partnerships, are in statute in our state. So when we look at making modifications, it's really within these domains that have been identified for the state of Ohio. What we did in this last go round, there are fewer standards that are required, but we have increased some of those expectations. So as the best example is around curriculum and assessment. So previously in our quality rating system, our 5-star system, You could be a 1 or 2 star and not actually be implementing your curriculum. And we're really excited that we're trying to align resources that support all of our rated programs with being able to actually implement a curriculum, so that we have a standard expectation. If you're in a quality rated, if you are a quality rated system, you are providing a curriculum and implementing a curriculum for every child in your program. We also attempted to reduce administrative burden, feedback that we received from the field about the number of forms, the number of things that are looked at. We've made forms samples. We are allowing people the flexibility to be able to identify the best way for them to document their progress, while providing samples, of course, but just really wanted to allow for flexibility. And then also the focus on, which also aligns to the Head Start approach, is really having that family and community partnership, having some clear expectations around what that partnership and what referrals to services. We know that families trust our early care and education community so much. So being able to talk about the needs of the family and the resources that are available in the community are really important. Finally, I just wanted to leave you all with just kind of where we were when we went into, when we left our state fiscal year 24, which was the end of June. This is just our ratings by provider type that we currently have in our state. And you'll note that at that time, we had over 2,000 programs that were our highest rated level. We'll go to our next slide. And then here are our new ratings. And as hopefully most of you know, we automatically transitioned our programs that were star rated into our new system. And at this time, we have about 60% of all licensed programs that are a bronze through gold level rating. So the system is working. I think we have 31 newly rated programs under the new system so far since we launched in July, and we're just really excited to help more programs sustain their rating, improve their rating, or become rated in the future.
Thank you, Alissa, for sharing that. And as we move into Q&A, we have significantly less time than we did at the beginning of this webinar. So I want to make sure that we're responsive to the Q&A questions. But if we don't get to all of them, we will make sure if you put your contact information in the chat or Q&A, we'll make sure to follow up with you. So I do want to open this question to anyone, but it's about NAEYC accreditation, so feel free to jump in, Alissa or Alissa, about a possibility of aligning QRIS for Ohio to the NAEYC accreditation. If a school achieves NAEYC accreditation, would they be the highest rated to step up? I also want to open that up to other pathways of quality, including Head Start and NAFCC accreditation.
Well,
So
I really want to leave it to Alissa to answer, but I would say I would love to see there to be alignment. We know that accreditation, there are many places that provide accreditation, and we know that accreditation as a goal really is the highest level of quality. And we at NAEYC, and I'm sure at NAFCC and Head Start has performance standards that are very aligned to accreditation. I think we would all agree that we would love to see QRIS systems to build towards those goals. And I know that we're all willing and able to help to make that a reality in Ohio and in all states.
Yeah, and Troy, absolutely. We want to, and now that we're kind of through the launch of the new system, and so we started conversations with NAEYC and Head Start as they have been modifying and revising their standards. And I think now we're in a great place to be able to talk about what that alignment looks like and look at reciprocity and how that would work here in Ohio. And certainly do not want to exclude our colleagues at NAFCC and looking at accreditation expectations and how that aligns to our quality rating system for family child care as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And we just have a few minutes left, but I do want to pose a question to all of our speakers. And maybe this is a good question to end on. And if you don't feel free to answer or not answer, but we talked a lot about what quality standards are and how they help children in programs. But I just wanted to kind of pose and maybe end on this question of who do quality standards impact the most?
Well, Troy, I'll kick it off. So the kindergarten readiness slide that I shared and the populations that are currently not at that are under the statewide demonstrating. I mean, I think we really need to focus on the populations, the kids that need the greatest support, and obviously having access to high quality environments are going to matter most to those children who, and what that looks like and where that is and how much their families need. We're having conversations here in the state about eligibility for homeless children, as an example. We have eligibility in our state pre-K program that has historically been a half-day program, 2.5 hours. They're also eligible for childcare. And so when we can direct that family in childcare to a highly rated program and they can access more of it, is that a goal that we have for that population that has some very unique and significant needs that a stable, high quality early care and education setting can provide to that child, but also that family when it comes to so many things, like just having a place to sleep and a place to eat and a regular routine. So there are definitely those populations, those numbers just sit with all of us when we see how far we have to go with some of our specific populations to make sure they have access to high quality.
I just briefly will add that, for the workforce itself, so yes, families, the cultural component that I was mentioning through the presentation, but really in the workforce, it's like having a credibility, a certification that give a peace of mind to families that their children are well taken care of, they have responsive cultural environments, and then and really to build up the pipeline for the workforce. So I think it's like, and for the state actually is well positioned to also being a vessel to receive more funding federally because you are complying with these alignments of quality. So I think it's a win-win-win in all ways that you see it. Thank you.
I think that what Francia is talking about is so important because then you're looking at the interests. I mean, it's easy to talk about how important it is to take care of children. That doesn't resonate with everybody, but economics pretty much resonates with everybody. And I think what you're talking about is exactly right. And in connection with what Alissa was saying about serving all the children, one of the things that I have seen work really well, more locally than statewide probably, although I think there's probably a statewide solution. And it is a heavy lift, but if there are ways of creating coordinated enrollment systems, those kinds of issues around homelessness and foster care and poverty rise to the top in terms of need and availability, and it becomes so much cleaner to find the right program for the right family instead of families going out to this landscape that feels like difficult to sort of navigate. I'm filling out an application here and then over here, because what if we don't get in over here? And then you've got all the dominoes lined up and you don't know where anybody is. But coordinated enrollment is a really nice first step to becoming more coordinated with standards and some of the things that, they were talking about up top in terms of making it easier for programs to meet all the standards rather than feel like they're also all over the map. And it's not an easy thing to do, but if folks can figure out how to do it, even just at a local level, you kind of see magic happen from there in a lot of these spaces that we're talking about.
I know we're at the end of our time, Troy, but I just can't leave the conversation without, raising up as NAEYC as the largest professional membership association for early childhood educators. I think that we have to really consider how important these quality standards are for the educators themselves. When we look at NAEYC accreditation data, we see that educators in accredited programs report higher levels of job satisfaction. They stay in jobs longer when they are in high quality programs. They are more, content with the work that they're doing. And I think that's something that we don't pay enough attention to, is how the educators are doing, how they're feeling connected to the work that they're doing. Because we know when our educators are good, our children will be good as well. And so I just think that there's so many people that these quality standards are important for.
Wonderful. I just want to thank, we are at time, but I just want to thank the speakers today again for joining us. We will send out the recording of this webinar. We did have some technical glitches, so there's a piece at the beginning that won't be included in that recording, but we'll also send out the slides as a resource for all participants. On the slides is a lot of the contact information for the speakers today if you have individual questions for them, and we can include additional resources from the speakers in the follow-up email that we send. And just as we end and lead today's conversation, and as we think about quality, it's important to thinking that every child deserves an opportunity to have high quality early learning environments so that they can grow to thrive and be successful throughout their life. So we thank you all for coming today and paying attention to this really important issue. And if you have any questions about the webinar or the topic, don't hesitate to reach out to someone at Groundwork, or if you have a question for someone on the panel as well. Thank you, everybody.